One of us is back. Chapter 4. Addie, Monday, June 29th. Cooper's Jeep gives a wheezy rattle as he pulls into a metered parking spot in front of San Diego office building, and he says as he shifts in the park, "Hate to admit it, but I think this thing might be on its last legs," he says. "Hadn't noticed," I deadpan. On the drive from Bayview, we practically had to shout at one another over whatever noise the engine was making. Sorry, it wasn't as bad yesterday, I swear. I would have borrowed Chris's car," Cooper says. Then he puts an arm in front of me as I reach for the door handle. "Hang on, let me check things out first." He gets out of the Jeep and walks around it, scanning the street nearby building before opening my door. "Coast is clear," he says. "You're ridiculous," I say, smiling despite my horrible mood. Cooper is decked out in full incognito mode. Sunglasses, a baseball cap pulled low enough to cover his sandy hair, half his face, and the Oktoberfest t-shirt Chris bought the last time he visited family in Germany, but he still doesn't look anything like the tourist he occasionally pretends to be. Those professional-grade workouts give him away every time. It's not baseball fans Cooper is worried about, though. "We're early," he notes, glancing at his phone. "You want to get some coffee first?" "No," I say, scanning the windows of the coffee shop on the first floor of Eli's office building. Half of the people are scattered across the bench seating, most of them staring at their laptops or their phones. Nothing out of the ordinary, but Eli's office is well known enough that I wouldn't put it past a reporter to be camped out in their midst. A few of the old standbys hung out around my house for a couple of days after the news about Jake broke, but I've become professional level skilled at avoiding them. "Let's just go up." "Yes, ma'am," Cooper says, linking his arm through mine. I lean into him, relieved at his presence, though initially I resisted it. "I'm sticking to my normal routine," I told everybody when the news dropped last week. That not only was Jake getting a new trial, but he'd been granted bail. The days of Jake controlling what I do were over. And I meant it. But it's still nice to have Cooper by my side, especially since my normal routine now consists of picking up restraining order paperwork from Eli. "I'll bring it to you tonight," Eli said when he called earlier. "No, I'll come get it. I have errands to run anyways," I said. Normal routine. "I'm glad you don't have a game today," I tell Cooper as we make our way up the elevators. He's playing for an elite summer baseball league, and the schedule is intense, even though he doesn't pitch as often as he did during the Cal Fullerton season. "You and me both," Cooper says, rolling his shoulders. "I overdid it on pull-ups yesterday. Nani left for me for half the night." He passes a woman who gives him a long, appraising look, like she's sure she knows him but can't quite figure out how, while ignoring me. The only time I ever feel invisible is when I'm with Cooper. It's kind of nice. "Nani did," I asked, pressing the up button. "But she's your #1 fan." "Yeah, but you know how she's been since she got out of the hospital, kind of obsessed with joint health," Cooper says. Nani had a knee replacement surgery a couple weeks ago. Even though she's been recuperating well, I know Cooper worries about her. Other than Chris, there's no one on earth he's closer to. The elevator door chimes. When the door opens, we step inside. "Do you think she'll be able to come to your viewing party at Cafe Contigo?" I ask. "Doubtful," Cooper says. "Probably a good thing, though, since I'm pretty sure I was terrible in that commercial. Can't believe I let you talk me into the party." His nose wrinkles as the elevator comes to stop and its door opens to a familiar pungent smell. I take it the hair replacement clinic hasn't moved?" "Nope," I say, stepping into the hallway. "Addie!" The door to Until Proven flies open, and Bethany Okonjo, one of Eli's paralegals, comes out to engulf me in a crushing hug. "It's so good to see you." "You too," I say, managing to move one hand enough to pat her back. "Thank you for the, hug," I was going to say. Extremely normal greeting. But why be sarcastic towards people who are trying to show you how much they care? That's one of the many, many life lessons I've learned over the past couple years. "Eli's wrapping up a meeting, but we've got a conference room all set up for you," Bethany says, releasing me and gesturing me through the still open door. "Winterfell," she catches Cooper's confused look as he finally takes off his sunglasses and adds, "Well, for those of you not familiar with our Game of Thrones naming system, the small one. Go right in. We picked up a few snacks in case you're hungry." A few snacks, putting it mildly. Looks like somebody emptied the entire contents of the downstairs coffee shop bakery into the table. But somebody was probably Knox, who waves at us from the larger glass wall conference room where half a dozen people are listening intently to whatever Eli is saying. Then the school is done for the year. Knox is working practically full-time out Until Proven. He was promoted from intern to office assistant last month, so he's finally getting paid. With more than free pizza and work experience. I have to get back in there, but wave if you need anything, Bethany says before closing the door behind her. Cooper stalks around the table like a man on a mission. Despite his non-stop training and the clean eating regimen, he's a sucker for carbs. Yes, chocolate croissants, he says, happily, grabbing 2 of them, but instead of taking a bite, he folds them into a napkin and places it off to one side. Chris loves these, he adds. Aw, look at you, saving your favorites for him. I sit down and reach for a fruit tart, plucking a gray strawberry from the top and popping it into my mouth. The perfect couple remains perfect. There's no such thing, Cooper says. The too sweet strawberry nearly gets stuck in my throat and I swallow hard. He's right, of course, because that's what people used to call me and Jake, the perfect couple. Seemingly shiny, happy, and ultra-popular, even though both of us were actually second best at the things we thought we cared about most. Jake was an afterthought behind Cooper when it came to Bayview sports, and I was a perennial beauty pageant runner-up. Turned out, though, that pageants weren't really my thing. As for Jake, well, he fooled all of us, you know, Cooper says quietly. Not quite to the same extent, I say with a strangled laugh. It's not true, Cooper says. I mean, yeah, I get it was definitely you two, but I knew him even longer than you did, Addie. We started hanging out at the end of summer before freshman year. I never, not one single time, thought he was capable of hurting anyone. Liz had no clue either, and Keeley. Could we not mention Keeley right now? I ask. Cooper blinks. I thought what happened was a good thing, he says. It was, I say, picking at the crumbling edge of my tart. Or it would be, probably, if I weren't totally broken. Earlier this month, when my friend Keely Sorer came home after finishing her first year at UCLA, we spent most of a Friday night driving around San Diego looking for a party that one of Keely's friends was having. We couldn't find it, so she kept trying slight variations of the address, and it got increasingly hilarious as she drove from one clearly wrong location to the next. When we finally parked in front of the retirement home, we laughed so hard that tears leaked out of my eyes. Keely tried to wipe them away and almost stabbed me in the cheek with one of her jail tips, and made me laugh even harder, and then all of a sudden we were kissing. It was something I hadn't realized I wanted until it was happening, and then it was, well, not perfect, like Cooper says. There's no such thing, but it was pretty great. You're not broken, Cooper says firmly. You're cautious, and Keely gets that. She's better than almost anyone, I'd say. Cooper and Keely are close now, but they have a past. But yet in high school, poor Cooper was open about his sexuality, and Keely was hurt when she found out. She's not pushing you, right? Of course not, I mutter. This is Keely we're talking about, anyway. She's already gone, remember? Keely's family always spends the summer on Cape Cod, and she left last week. I hated that I felt a little bit relieved, just like I was relieved when Daniel, the guy I'd been dating a month before that, gratefully accepted my "we'd be better friends" suggestion, even though that wasn't what I really wanted. My love life has followed a familiar depressing pattern since Jake was arrested. I get excited about somebody new, we have a fantastic, giddy couple of weeks, and then my lizard brain kicks in. Some kind of deep-seated fight or flight fear response that makes me push people away. I don't mind being single. I kind of love it in a lot of ways. But I want it to be by choice, not because I'm too afraid for anything else. Cooper was the first person I told about Keely since they have a history, and I wanted to make sure it wouldn't be weird for him. I think he was touched that I went to him with something of a coming out moment, even though I'm not entirely sure what it means. I know that I still like guys, and I don't think I've ever been attracted to a girl before Keely, although it's possible and I didn't know what to call it. When I told Cooper that, he reminded me that labels don't matter. Just like who you like, he said. Now Cooper brings me back to the present with a reassurance on my shoulder. Give yourself time, Maddie. It hasn't been even 2 years since everything imploded with Jake. And yet he's gone out of jail before I've even had a third date. I say, stuffing the rest of the fruit jar into my mouth as Eli finally exits the large conference room and heads our way. He's juggling a big stack of folders, so Cooper lunges for the doors and pulls it open. Thanks, Cooper. Hi, Eddie. Sorry about the wait. Glad you're enjoying the food, Eli says, eyes rolling on my chipmunk cheeks. There was more pastry in one go than I realized. I chew harder and wave, relaxing at the sight of him. Even though chaos frequently surrounds Eli on account of his job, he's one of the most competent and therefore calming people I've ever met. I can make this quick because it's all good news. Well, as good as it can be under the circumstances, he adds, dumping his folders onto the table and reading through the top ones. We got everything we asked for. Jake can't come within 200 feet of your home, mine and Ashton's home, or Cafe Contigo. He can't contact you. He can't. How's this even happening, though? Cooper burst out in a rare shed of anger. Pence rolled the window and looked aside, hand on his hip. There were 3 eyewitnesses to what Jake did to Addie, including Addie. She was in the hospital, not to mention all the other crap he pulled. Simon would still be here, probably if Jake hadn't helped him, and maybe things would have changed for him. Why doesn't any of it matter all of a sudden? It does, Eli sighs, running a hand through his hair. Gotten a little longer, or taller really, since the wedding, though it hasn't reached the mad scientist height he was sporting when I first met him. But the trial by impartial jury is a fundamental right of our judicial system, mixed out with overcrowding and Jake's age and his community service, and, well, here we are. Cooper stares out the window, jaw twitching, as Eli takes a seat beside me and grabs both of my hands in his. Addie and I know this is awful. Nobody believes in the importance of a fair trial more than I do. And I still hate what's happening, but the court understands your concerns, which is why this protective order is extremely thorough. Also, Jake's whereabouts will be carefully monitored and the new trial will be expedited. Am I going to have to testify again? I asked, my throat drying at the thought. Back then I felt good to confront Jake and be able to calmly state all the ways in which he'd harmed me, but it's not the kind of thing I feel like the need to do more than once. Probably not. We can talk about it later, though. Eli says, releasing my hand, and he extracts a stapled packet from his folder and puts it on the table between us. In the meantime, here's your copy. We can go over everything in full detail, but the most important thing for you to know that it would be massively, incredibly foolish for Jake to so much as breathe in your direction. Even the slightest violation of this order would send him straight back to jail and be added to the pile of evidence that convicted him in the first place. He didn't have to worry about leaving evidence the first time around. I say something in my chair. I wish I was going to Peru now instead of the end of July. I originally thought I'd be there most of the summer, but then the school I applied to, Colegio San Civile, decided to divide its program into 2 sessions. In order for Maeve and me to be guaranteed spots together, we could sign up for only the second one. Don't worry, Addie, Cooper says, folding his arms. Your friend won't let you be alone for a single minute between now and the step on that plane, and when we're not shadowing your every move, we'll be keeping an eye on Jake. You absolutely will not, Eli says, but I can't help smiling a little at Cooper in bodyguard mode. Anything suspicious looking outside? I tease. Cooper's eyes stare back out the window. There's a beaten up car that's been idling across the street since we got here. Red convertible with a tan top. He leans closer to the glass, squinting. For sure Jake won't be caught dead in that piece of junk like that, but I need to get closer to be sure. Cooper, listen, I cannot stress this enough, Eli says as a note of agitation creeps into his voice. Do nothing about anything. That goes for both of you. All of you. The entire Bayview bunch, or whatever you're calling yourselves these days. It's crew, I break in. Whatever, Eli says with a wave of his hand. I've told Knox the same thing, and I'll fire his ass if he doesn't listen. No, you won't, I scoff, feeling a rush of affection as I catch sight of Knox carefully assembling packets at his desk. I barely knew him 3 months ago, but having someone save an entire wedding party is an intense bonding experience. Now, like a younger brother I never realized I wanted. He's also very patient about the fact that occasionally when I think about what could have happened to my sister and nearly every other person I care about, I feel the need to wrap my arms around his neck and hang on tight for a few minutes. I would seriously consider it, Eli says, unconvincingly. And as for you, he frowns as I pick up the restraining order and the envelope just between the pages, landing face down on the table. Wait a sec, that shouldn't be there. We both stare at the envelope for a few beats. He looks worried, and I flash back to the death threats he got a couple of months ago from Jared Jackson, the boy whose brother Eli helped put in jail. Those letters escalated over time until Jared decided to blow up Eli and Ashton's rehearsal dinner. Is that... I grab the envelope before Eli can turn it over, and we're shaking hands, and I blink as Eli fidgets in his chair. Baby Kenfelder Prentice, I read. Are these ultrasound pictures? No, Eli says. This is baby sex from our last OB visit. We don't want to know, but the nurse gave us the results anyways. Ashton asked me to throw the envelope away without opening it. But doing that felt like bad luck somehow, so I've been hanging on to it. I don't understand how it got mixed up with my files. Eli gets a little red as I start to smile. Jake temporarily forgotten. I didn't open it or anything. I wasn't tempted. He goes redder still. Much. We don't want to know? Cooper asks with a grin. Or is it just Ashton? Both of us, Eli says, but I'm slightly more curious than she is. How about I keep it? I say, tucking it into my bag. You can look as soon as we get into the car, aren't you? Cooper asks, finally detaching himself from the window. Maybe, maybe not, I say, my spirits lifting a few notches. It's a welcome change after the week I had to be in charge of a mystery where there's no bad answer.